Today marks a more than noteworthy release by Catalyst Game Labs for Battletech, which is the reveal of Battletech Essentials, a new alternative beginner box, but with an amazing twist. While most of these sets tend to come with standard battle mechs, instead, Battletech Essentials will be coming with two unique legendary machines, never seen in plastic prior to this. In fact, one of these mechs is arguably the most famous battle mech to ever grace the Inner Sphere. The astounding, deadly Yen-Lo-Wang Centurion. But it's not alone either, and is coming with a more than notable companion, in the form of the legend killer Rifleman, for it to face off against in the set. Two of the greatest Solaris mechs, both of which had been piloted by some of the greatest champions in the setting. I was informed ahead of time about this release by Catalyst Game Labs, and I really wanted to add something to this, because frankly I find the mechs in this set absolutely extraordinary. In fact, keen-eyed watchers on the internet had been predicting at least the arrival of the Yen-Lo-Wang. So, in this video, I am going to be going over the legendary battle mechs of the Yen-Lo-Wang and the Legend Killer. And there is going to be an exceptional surprise at the end of this video as well. You're going to not want to miss it. One of the most storied mechs in the history of all of Battletech, the Yen-Lo-Wang, a modified Centurion battle mech named after the Han god of the underworld, and the king of the Nine Hells, is an absolute terror for any Mechwarrior to see in any age. The story of this legend begins with its first operator, Justin Allard, a heroic and loyal soldier to the Federated Sons. He would find himself seemingly exiled in 3026 on suspicion of being supposedly a Capellan asset. Allard, maimed in battle by Grey Noton, a man who is going to be referenced more later in this video, would be stripped of all of his honors and sent into exile. His dishonorable discharge and exile were both ploys by Davion intelligence in order for Justin to begin to develop credibility, especially with their plans to have him infiltrate the Mechwarrior, the intelligence agency of the Capellan Confederation. And it would eventually work, but that's a story to be explored in more depth another time. The falsely disgraced officer would make his way to Solaris, and it is here where not only his reputation would be born in the gladiator mech arenas, but it would also mark the beginning of the journey of the Yen-Lo-Wang. On Solaris, exotic or customized battle mechs are far from uncommon. Many gladiators with the means do their best to change their battle mechs in favor of their own style, in order to help when they are desperately seeking glory in the most dangerous of blood sports. Justin Allard would acquire a stock configuration CN-9-A Centurion battle mech for his upcoming career on Solaris. He would make extensive modifications to the war machine, including installing a Pontiac 100 AC-20 autocannon, as well as installing 3 sharpened blades on the left arm, giving it a hatchet-like ability to attack in melee combat. Numerous competitors fell before the mighty autocannon, or to the Yen-Lo-Wang's claws in Justin's run through the 3027 championship, and its powerful close-range configuration captured not only the fascination of the audience and mech warriors alike in-universe, making this mech one to be feared already, but it also captured the attention of the readers of Battletech fiction, and the fans of the universe as a whole. Many an enemy mech and pilot were felled in the arena as watchers only heard the barks of its AC-20 autocannon, or the grinding and smashing of metal as claws tore through the Yen-Lo-Wang's opponent. When Justin Allard returned to the Federated Sons, after betraying the Capellan Confederation in the Fourth Succession War, he would return with his battle mech in tow. This most deadly war machine would then be gifted to his son by Candace Liao, the great Kai Allard Liao. The war machine's reputation would be enhanced in the future, after receiving advanced new technologies that were applied to it in late 3050 through to 3051, but it would be piloted by arguably one of the best, if not the best, mech warriors to have ever lived, with only a few others who might be able to make such a claim. Even advanced clan battlemechs with elite Jade Falcon warriors would fail to weather the storm from the Yen-Lo-Wang, with Kai behind its controls. As displayed in the Battle of Aliina. In the lull of the fighting after the Battle of Tukiad, the reconditioned Yen-Lo-Wang would make its return to Solaris, now piloted by the son of the former champion. Like his father before him, Kai would go on to win the championship, though unlike his father, he would do so within the remarkable Centurion his father had given him, and had made famous in the first place. The mech would be embroiled in more war and bloodshed with Kai at its controls, fighting in Operation Bulldog and defending the St. Ives Compact. Kai would then take this battlemech into battle during the Fedcom Civil War, and beyond that as well. After his death in the early 32nd century, he would leave the now unquestionably legendary Yen-Lo-Wang to deny Liao Centrella, where it would be once more retrofitted for a new era, and would once more enter Solaris, though Deny would not be crowned champion of the arena. It would last be seen with Deny as the pilot in the bloody battles of New Syrtis in the Dark Age, even seeing it engage in direct combat with the new first Prince of the Federated Suns, Julian Davion. Much like her career on Solaris, having never achieved a championship, she fell short in her goals on New Syrtis as well, and failed to kill Prince Julian Davion, despite showing skill, and despite having such a renowned and deadly battlemech at her command. The Yen-Lo-Wang was returned to Kai's family's holdings after the campaign, in essence placing it into retirement. Deny now pilots a Black Knight. In order to display to the world that she is mentally fit and healthy, she named it Julian. Being based on the Centurion chassis, and following most of its design principles, the Yen-Lo-Wang in its original state, when modified by Justin Allard, is a ruthless combatant to be seen on the battlefield. This 50-ton medium mech is from the Succession Wars, and uses entirely inner-sphere Introtech technologies in the machine. This means that it has right off the bat a standard internal structure, gyro, and cockpit. For keeping the mech cool, it has standard heat sinks as well with no additional tonnage invested, meaning it can disperse 10 points of heat buildup on the mech every turn. For the Succession Wars, this is fine, though any pilot of the mech in this form will need to be careful when moving and firing every turn, or there will be consequences. For its engine, like the original model, the Yen-Lo-Wang has an 8.5-ton Nissan Fusion engine, which allows the mech to move up to 64 km per hour, or 6 movement points in the tabletop game. Another similarity, but with some alterations, is its armored protection. While the Yen-Lo-Wang has 136 points of armor, as a result of its 8.5 tons of standard plating, the points distribution differs from the original. It has more plating in the right arm versus the left, and the extra points shaved off the left arm are used to reinforce the side torsos, if only barely. The CN9 is typically built as a general-purpose trooper mech based on these features. It's a battle line mech that engages targets at all ranges, and has some measurable level of armored protection. Machines like the Centurion were the basis of most house armies in the Succession Wars. But Justin Allards deviates from that and is no longer a trooper. It is a vicious, close-range brawler. First to achieve that goal, it installs a Pontiac 100 autocannon class 20, which means it can deliver crippling or instantly lethal attacks at close range. When in the hands of Allard or his son Kai, this accurate gun becomes a dedicated, brutal blade to swiftly deal with the mech's opposition. The cannon also has 3 tons of ammunition, making it have a real sustaining presence in any battle. To make room for this, the original AC-10 and LRM-20 are removed from the unit. There are some weapons it does keep from the original build though, for instance its forward-facing center-torso mounted medium laser, and its rear-mounted medium laser as well. It does have a claw as well, which is classified as a hatchet. As a result, when coming in close, not only will opponents need to fear the crippling autocannon, but the deadly, sharpened, heavy, hardened steel blades on the left hand as well. Once the Yen-Lo-Wang engages a target in close, even a heavy or assault mech, it can quickly tear through its adversary, and bring even the mightiest mechs to their knees. and it'll bring the mech warriors within those vehicles to their graves. Upgraded for the clan invasion, the Yen-Lo-Wang, also now known as the YLW-2, would become a horrifying brutalizer on the battlefield, even more than before. Smartly, it maintained the claw in the left arm, as well as its original single heat sinks. Beyond this and some other base features, it is an extreme retrofit. It installs an XL engine in order to save weight, and in order to enhance its weapons package overall. But there is also one more trick that the Federated Commonwealth added to this devastating custom mech. At the forefront of new technology at the time, it is equipped with triple strength myomers, a technology which was almost never deployed due to problems prior to its latest advancement up until this point. This means if it makes melee attacks while the mech is overheating by 9, it improves its claw damage from 10, which is more than respectable, to a massive 20 when engaging in melee, hitting as hard as the original AC-20 autocannon. This technology also causes the Yen-Lo-Wang to move faster as well, enhancing its speed. But to benefit from this, it must start overheating, which can in fact be difficult even with standard heatsinks on board. But to attempt to overheat, it has 3 Spitfire medium pulse lasers, with 2 in the left arm and 1 in the rear center torso. These are accurate, close-range fire weapons, and if the Yen-Lo-Wang is moving and firing them, it will fortunately start overheating the machine. The real killer, though, is its long-range, head-clipping, Von Ryan railgun, or Gauss rifle. This weapon means that the Yen-Lo-Wang is no longer helpless at long range, and even at medium ranges, it has a devastating, potentially fight-ending weapon at its disposal. When paired with its claws in close, this custom Centurion is a true destroyer of mechs. It is feared with reason. A lesser-known machine compared to the Yen-Lo-Wang, and not as instantly eye-catching despite its glorious paint scheme. The Legend Killer started off as the personal ride of one of the most famous gladiators in the history of Solaris. He might even be the most famous combatant to have ever entered the arena, at least in universe. Grey Noton seemed to be a man from nowhere, with some believing that he came from the periphery, while others think there is some evidence that he may be from either the Free Worlds League or the Lyran Commonwealth, though no one is quite sure. In fact, he claimed to have been a mercenary as a teenager prior to his Solaris career, which also began when he was a teenager, but there's no record of him in any unit, and he never divulged which unit he was a part of. While being so young, he was a natural mech warrior, and in the simulations he tested in the lower arena, he was exceptional. He rose through the ranks, but all the same embarked on a mixed life of being a mercenary and of being a Solaris combatant. Better yet, he was always willing to cash in with holo recordings of his mercenary work. Basically, he sold combat footage for money on top of his mercenary contracts. A truly classy gentleman, it would seem, and I'm sure with a classy audience. By 3015, at the age of 30, he would have a brand new Rifleman, an absolutely mint condition one at that. This mech would soon after be known by many as the Legend Killer. It earned that name in the arena, when many thought a Rifleman in Solaris would be easy prey for their Marauders, Warhammers, Atlases, or any other assortment of brutal war machines. Grey would become Solaris Champion, from within his mighty Rifleman Legend Killer, for 7 years in a row, displaying an unnatural level of skill and even grace with his battle mech in the years as he ripped through the ranks. He'd retire after his 7th year, in order to run an alternative business which frankly just made more money. But the Legend Killer wasn't finished. Grey would use his Rifleman in a devastating raid on the Federated Suns as part of his off-the-books business, where he would nearly kill Justin Allard, but only maimed him. Ironically, Allard, going by his mother's maiden name on Solaris, would meet with Grey, without the latter realizing that he'd nearly killed him earlier. Either way, Grey himself was confirmed killed by a broken neck by someone, and Allard would just so happen to take the Legend Killer into battle in his duel against the Solaris champion of the time, Philip Capet, almost immediately after his new associate's death. Capet would be killed on the battlefield in a failed ambush by the mighty Rifleman. But there is an enigma to the Legend Killer. No one really knows what Grey Noton did to it, or if it was modified at all. Many speculated, due to its exceptional performance, that the mech was in fact using Star League-era technologies. Solaris is a venue which gambling has a major role in, and there are attempts to prevent anyone from cheating or having unclaimed advantages. Several times, fragments of the mech's armor or structure didn't reveal any advanced technologies, and heat sensors didn't reveal any odd configurations outside of what Grey claimed to be in the mech. At least it appears. The mech would change owners after Grey's death, but there is no real notes of significant entanglements. Eventually, in the 3060s, a supposed teardown was done by one of its new owners. The stock neural helmet on board was apparently concealing inside of it an SLDF model helmet, and no officials in Solaris ever found out. SLDF helmets are much more sophisticated than many newer Inner Sphere designs from this era, and can be helpful with piloting a mech more smoothly, as well as giving it more options for tracking targets. Apparently multiple onboard electronics were altered or changed as well, and the mech's myomers too. It seems those were replaced with more efficient and performance-tweaked bundles. All the same, no one truly knows what made the Legend Killer so effective, outside of the superb piloting by Grey Noton, and later, by Justin Allard. The mech would be lost in a dropship accident in 3076, so finding out truly might be an impossibility. Though, Noton himself, in The Story of a Legend Killer by Randall Bills, alludes that he did in fact have another Rifleman hidden away, and one which was not in fact the Rifleman which Justin Allard took to victory against Philip Capet. This machine has yet to be accounted for, so perhaps there is still a Legend Killer out there, and one with much sharper teeth than the mildly modified RFL-3N. Still, to reflect the unknowable nature of the Legend Killer, there are in fact multiple profiles for it, depending on how much you believe of what anyone has said about the mech and its internal workings. Perhaps it is just an updated Rifleman 3N. Or perhaps not. Debuting in Mechwarrior Online, the particular configuration of the Rifleman I am covering here is not considered canon, though Noton's thoughts on the matter are, from the Story of the Legend Killer, which actually appeared first as a Mechwarrior Online short story. Due to other variants of it often simply being a Rifleman for the most part, in this section we are going to be taking a look over what could have been Noton's most prized gunslinging killer, if it were 60 tons. And it is extremely deadly. In fact, this 60-ton Gladiator is heavily modified and upgraded with Star League-era technologies, to the surprise of no one. To begin with, the Legend Killer makes a series of attempts to save weight on board in order to accommodate its more impressive, if not terrifying, weapons loadout. For base components, it has a standard gyro and cockpit, though the occupant within will still have a Star League-era neural helmet, and it benefits from an endo-steel internal structure, saving 3 tons on its weight. For onboard electronics, it has a hybrid targeting computer, which combines a TrueTrack and SPAR 3C targeting system into one new, unique design. It benefits from double heat sinks, which are incredibly helpful to offload its very high potential heat burden. This solves many of the problems the core Rifleman 3N has, and it also allows for the Legend Killer to fire all of its main weapons reliably without much of a problem in spiking its own heat. To move this mech and keep its weight down, it has a 6-ton 240XL fusion engine of an unknown make, likely salvaged from a Star League design. This engine would be irreplaceable and extremely expensive. This allows it to move at a moderate speed of 64 km per hour, or 6 movement points in the tabletop game. For armored protection, this particular variant appears to have 8 tons of standard plating, little more than the 7.5 the standard 3N traditionally comes with, making it vulnerable to heavy fire potentially. All of this weight saving and heat efficiency are there to allow for one of the deadliest 60-ton designs from prior to the clan invasion. Because the Legend Killer is gunned. Heavily gunned. In both arms it comes equipped with an LB-10X autocannon. This goes just as far as an AC-5 autocannon, but hits twice as hard when using solid ammunition. In order to conceal this upgrade, I would assume Grey would typically be using solid ammunition as a result. This means these twin cannons can punch major holes in targets, for low heat, in essence giving it a pair of PPCs, rather than a pair of long-range medium lasers. The mech supports 20 rounds of ammunition to feed these monstrous cannons. Backing these up further, it comes with twin large lasers in the same arms, giving it a major follow-up to those cannons. If all of these long-range weapons hit, it could do absolutely catastrophic damage to a medium, heavy, or even assault mech, especially if this fire arrives accurately, and does so for several turns. Grey was a hell of a shot too, which means, well, that will happen if he's piloting this devil. Finally, for close-range support and to keep up appearances, it has a pair of medium lasers, with one in the right and the other in the left torso. The machine is as hellish as the cartoon jaws often depicted on the sides of its center torso next to its cockpit. If this was indeed the Legend Killer, it is easy to see why a talented pilot like Grey Noton annihilated even assault mechs with this vicious battle mech. Anyone who fought against this with introductory technology would likely find themselves heading towards the afterlife. Legend Killer is a fitting name for such a monster. There have been unique Mechwarrior packs released before this current box set, in the forms of the Legends pack, one being from the Clan Invasion Kickstarter, and 2 more coming with the new Mercenaries Kickstarter. The Yen-Lo-Wang, however, surpasses any of the prior unique mechs released before, at least in my view, and having it arrive with the still very much remarkable Legend Killer is all the better. Still, the box it's coming in is exceptional all the same, and I'd like to talk about why. Battletech Essentials is going to deliver an alternative for new players on getting into the game for starters. While the normal beginner box is nice, with a Vindicator and Griffin, it's not quite as exciting if I'm honest. This new set gives new players options on how they'd want to get into the game, and I appreciate that. Also, let's be fair, 2 legendary brightly colored war machines might be a bit more exciting for some people to play even. Really though, anything that gives new players options is fundamentally a good thing, and I'd argue it's positive for the setting. The fact that collectors and veterans will also have a chance to get this unique set of plastic sculpts, including one of the most legendary mechs in the history of Battletech, perhaps only rivaled by the Black Widow's Warhammer, is amazing. I was given some of these promotional pictures for the video as well, when talking to CGL about this, and I've got them on the screen. I really do appreciate seeing the miniatures in person though myself, and I would love to get a bit of a better breakdown of what's inside the box. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Well, let's dive into it and take a look at that right now, because Catalyst Game Labs did send me one of these to show all of you for this video. So let's do this. We're going to start with me going over how beautiful this box is. As with most of the boxes released by CGL, I lined it up next to my old and new beginner boxes and looked at all 3 together. And of course the art is consistent and fantastic. The box quality is sturdy as well. Interestingly, it's certainly sturdier than most of its competitors' boxes too, unless one looks towards more special edition products. The back of the box has a story to tell in and of itself, and goes over the contents of what's in, as well as showing off its MSRP, which I definitely support, as it can help advise consumers. The entire set has some degree of a theme, focusing in on Solaris, which makes sense, especially given the 2 mechs within. But to be clear, it is a beginner set for the core game first. All the same, there is a reason why the back of this box ends with, "Do you have what it takes to conquer the arenas of the game world and become a legend? Leap into action and find out." I dig it. I used a hobby knife to breach the plastic seal around the box at this point, and I was very careful because this is in fact something that was sent to me for review. Stabbing the back of the box in excitement is not what I aim to do. You'd see a pretty big jump cut following me showing off that part of the box if that happened. Next up, we pop off the top, of course. You can immediately see the thanks for playing piece, as well as the code on it. This means that indeed, you will get a 1-person discount coupon code in the box for Catalyst's web store, which is another boon for new players, especially those in the United States where shipping costs are much lower. Next up, included as well, is something I'll have to look into myself, because it is a short story by the renowned Michael Stackpole. That's pretty neat. This will be great to have a look at when I get the opportunity. I recognize the art of the trebuchet on the cover. I think I first saw it in Empire Alone as a page spread. Just in general, it's great to see a contribution by one of the legends of the setting, not in this case being the battle mech, but being Stackpole himself. After this, we get a look at the mech sheets which are included. I dig the art on them, and they're certainly a bit more interesting to look at than traditional mech sheets. Now, as an important note, from what I can tell, all of these mech sheets included within the box are stock variants of the designs. They come in a plastic sleeve, which I remove, and I found it included rules for the CN9 Centurion, the RFL-3N Rifleman, a TDR-5S Thunderbolt, and a WVR-6R Wolverine. The quality of the material seems good, and these should be a great asset for people just starting out. If you're new to Battletech, these sheets mean you can get started right away. No printing out sheets is necessary. What's in the box will let you play. Pilot cards are included within the box as well, and CGL is centering these options on the Succession War characters, which is of course fitting given the theme of the mechs on board. Justin Zhang Allard is the primary card for the Centurion, and Grey Noton is the main card for the Rifleman. Anya Terrell is the pilot of the Wolverine, who was 3029's Solaris Grand Champion, and Chaka Mobutu was the 3028 Solaris Grand Champion. In other words, each pilot card is for one of the greats of Solaris. Once more, it's fitting. We've got standard dice on board too, which is to be expected in any pack. And then we get to the real show. Look at these models. When I picked up the Rifleman Legend Killer, I was stunned by the quality. I own 5 of the Rifleman miniatures from CGL's standard Lance packs, as well as an additional 4 from the Wolves Dragoons box sets. First, I want to say that the pose is just very striking. The quality of the plastic and the miniature is definitely higher than the standard Lance pack ones that I have as well. At a first look over, I didn't see any obvious mold lines, but I'd need to investigate further before painting this mech to make sure that they didn't show up. Still, the pose is amazing. The model is stunning. Honestly, I fell in love with this thing the second I grabbed it. It's just spectacular, really. Next up, and almost more importantly, we've got the Centurion, the Yen-Lo-Wang. What a great pose, and the model is accurate to its 3025 configuration. Big right arm cannon, claw in the left arm, missiles are gone. You'll love to see it. The quality of the miniature is on par with the Rifleman, and I just took a minute just to look at it when I got it. Through feeling it, I was able to find a slight edge of a mold line, but it ran along the edge of the leg, which is exactly where you'd want to see this. It makes its removal easier and more concealable. Again, same high quality as the Legend Killer. I love it. After this, we removed the plastic shell which held the miniatures and other contents in the box, and we're over to the quick start rules. If you've had a beginner box before, you know what these are. These are going to help anyone who's just getting started with Battletech have the essentials. Ergo the name of the box, I suspect, which is going to allow them to pick up and start playing. The art on the cover is the same as the box, which means it's very nice. Next up, there is a brief primer to the Inner Sphere. It covers parts of the Succession War setting, and has some great art added to it. I really enjoyed the new reimagined Mechwarrior pilot art we got here as well. The Solaris additional rules to the game come next, and this is another reason for veterans or new players to grab this box over a normal beginner box, because it adds some fun, flavorful rules to the game and encourages the theme of the box, which is of course Solaris. The stable rules seem interesting to say the least by adding various buffs based off of the staple people you choose to be a part of. And some of this is going to look familiar to those of you who have seen previous iterations of Solaris rules. By default, of course, I'm going to support Bromley stables, because as you know, Purple Bird is very strong. But in essence, each stable gives benefits to the mech warriors on both sides. There is a blurb at the end too, which states that these rules can find some purchase outside of Solaris too, if both players agree. Beyond that, there are rules for fighting in Steiner Stadium or the Patchwork. In essence, these offer fun scenarios for the arena. It's pretty neat. So we're into the semi-finals now for what's in the box. The cardboard tech. Some of these cutouts are for terrain modifiers, but also add potentially different combatants for people to face off against, so it's not just the Yen-Lo-Wang versus the Legend Killer every round. That's what the Wolverine and Thunderbolt cutout are there for, in other words. Just set up the stands and they are basically ready to go. It's a great way to help new players proxy so they can get a better feel for the game. These cutouts exist in other starter sets for the game too, so this will be familiar to anyone but new players. Finally, we are on to map sheets. Welcome to the arena, my friends. Every beginner box will come with some kind of these in order to give a location to play on. I did briefly mention that these have special rules that can be applied to them as well. So it's pretty great for the scenario pack, or even for just having a free-for-all with friends, even if you're going to use completely different mechs than the ones that are provided in the box. So what do I think of the box overall? I think it's great. If you can't tell by how I've been talking about it, I think it's great. I like the normal beginner box too for new players, but I think this product is just a much better way to deliver beginner box sets as a whole. First, by having unique mechs, it feels much less like certain mechs are trapped in a starter set, such as the Vindicator or the Griffin, as is the case with the current box. The current standard beginner box offers great value, but it's less optimal to have to get multiples of them to get multiples of the starter mechs. Typically, people aren't going to need duplicates of the Yen-Lo-Wang. It's very unique, even physically, so you're not going to see people needing to have 4 of them to make up a lance or something like that. If you're a new player, you get access right away to a couple of flavorful and powerful mechs. Even if the core kit's rules just bring in the vanilla variants first, it'll be easy to get updated rules for these devastating war machines after the fact. I'll have sources listed in the top comment to this video. This is the optimal starter set. It encourages one-time purchases of reasonably priced boxes, it offers great value, and a pair of astoundingly good quality mech models within the box itself. I genuinely mean it when I say this is the best starter set that they've come up with. And if anything like a starter set refresh happens again in a few years, if this box isn't the default, then something like it should be the next focus. Because this box hits every beat correctly. It's good for every segment of the broader Battletech player base, in my opinion. How fitting that a box set that is in essence the embodiment of winning as far as its quality and value are concerned, is headed up by the ultimate winning battle mech of them all, the Yen-Lo-Wang. There are still a couple notes that I have to add to all of this, of course, because despite how cool this is, there are a few strings. The most important note of all, though, is that this is going to be released exclusively through Target in the United States. This is great for Americans, who make up the largest volume of players for the game. If you're in the States and you want these models, the pre-orders should be up on Target's website the same day this video goes live. And they should start becoming available for normal purchase within a month, or maybe a couple. I suspect more details will be on Target's website for the pre-order. This does mean that if you're in Canada, Europe, Oceania, or Asia, these will become more difficult to find. It's not necessarily great to hear, but exclusive releases through retailers are a reality due to the size of the game and the current size of Catalyst Game Labs. With time, if Battletech continues to grow, and I do expect it to, I would assume that these types of exclusive deals would become less frequent. Traditionally as well, these exclusive releases don't last forever, so hopefully these can enter regular distribution for everyone at a later date. When or if though, sadly, I don't have any information on that at this time. I also have to add something for myself in regards to this video. in that I was not paid to do this video by the companies involved with Battletech or Mechwarrior, though I was provided with one copy of the product. Catalyst reached out to me and offered to send me a copy for review, and I opted to do so. Honestly, without actually knowing the product that they were going to send me. After the excitement from the Kickstarter and the releases around it, I really wanted to see what was coming next for the game, and I think this is a great addition to the catalog. It is not just corpo speak, it's pretty damn cool for a newer veteran player. In other words, I think it's good for Battletech, and I think it's cool. I think reviews like this should be done for the benefit of the audience and the community first and foremost, and I'm extremely happy that CGL gave me the opportunity to do this overview. I hope you all enjoyed this sidestep in my normal content, and perhaps we will see more like it into the future. But with that being said, thank you for joining me here today. That was a lot of fun. I didn't want to focus so deeply on the characters and more on the mechs when I was doing the script. Thankfully, I didn't just have to rely on my rusty memories and had the Battletech Legends book handy. For other resources I used to make this video, I used Record Sheets 3055 Upgrade and Record Sheets 3039 Unabridged and 3050 Upgrade in order to pull some of the stats for the mechs. I opted to use the Mechwarrior Online version of the Legend Killer as it just seemed to fit the story better, which worked better than me going over just what would be a standard Rifleman, given that I've already covered that mech before. I really wanted to do something a bit more unique here. But as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help, I mean it. Besides that, I think you'll be happy with the content overall, I think. If you want to take your support one step further, you can also hit the join button on this video. When you join as a YouTube member, you support the operation of this channel, and I genuinely can't thank you enough. Because I really do mean it when I say it, videos like these are only made possible because of viewers like you. I'd like to see what you guys think. Are you excited for the Yen-Lo-Wang and the Legend Killer? Did you like my presentation of all of this? Also, the pinned comment will have all relevant links as to the video and to the box set that I have available. And with that, I look forward to seeing all of you in the YouTube's comment section below.